Airbnbs can be money printing machines as an investment, but if you don't watch out for these 8 hidden costs, your money machine could turn into a money pit.
We are the Real Estate Robinsons.
Hey everyone, if this is your first time here, I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And we are real estate investors who quit our day jobs by investing in short-term rentals, and we're here to show you how you can do the same. So today we want to shed some light on a part of the Airbnb business that doesn't get talked about enough, and those are some of the hidden costs that come along with running your Airbnb business. Those hidden costs. If you forget to include these hidden costs when you're building out your business, you could end up short on cash or with a property that doesn't make as much money as you initially thought.
So before we dive into the hidden costs, let's just quickly recap the more obvious costs that come along with running an Airbnb. First is your mortgage payment. Obviously, if you own a property, unless you paid cash for it, you're going to have a mortgage that needs to be paid every single month. And even if you're doing rental arbitrage, you won't have a mortgage payment, but you will have rent due every single month as well.
Next to your property taxes, every time you buy a property, and this is regardless of whether you have a mortgage or you paid cash for it, you're still going to have to pay property taxes. Now, most investors, and honestly most people in general, when they make their mortgage payment, it's actually a combined payment of their mortgage payment, but it's also their insurance and their property taxes. And it's easier to do that than kind of setting aside money yourself to pay it on your own, but typically that's how it works.
Now, after taxes, you have utilities. Again, this is an Airbnb and not a traditional long-term rental with a tenant. So that means that you, as the owner of the Airbnb, are responsible for paying the utilities, not the guests.
I mean, I guess you could try and make your, get your guests to chip in for the utilities.
I feel like I have heard someone say that, no?
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, Airbnb allows you to add additional fees. So you could have a utility fee.
Yeah,
but,
electricity fee if
yeah.
There's a hot tub or something,
But that's crazy. So
yeah, that's weird. Next up are your cleaning fees. Now, as an Airbnb host, this is a cost you actually can pass on to your guests. So when a guest books your property, they're paying for both your nightly rate and the cost of fees, which includes cleaning fees. But once you receive that money from the guest, you have to turn it around and give it to the cleaners. Rightfully so, obviously. Repairs and maintenance are the next obvious costs. We've talked about this in so many other of our videos, but things are 100% going to break at your property, so you'll always want to set some money aside to account for that as well.
And the last expense, and this isn't really an expense, but it's still worth mentioning, and that's the variable income that comes along with owning an Airbnb. Now again, this is something we've talked about plenty of times before, but remember, Airbnbs aren't like traditional long-term rentals where you get one fixed dollar amount every single month. With Airbnbs, every month is going to be a little bit different in terms of how much money you make. And if you invest in a market that's super seasonal, then you'll want to make sure, you really want to make sure that you're saving some of the money you make during the busy season so that you have enough money saved up to cover expenses during the slow season. I know some people that own in markets that literally shut down for half of the year. So you want to account for that when you're buying that property.
Wow, that's scary.
I am so scared.
All right, now that we've talked about through some of the more obvious costs, let's get into the hidden costs of starting and running an Airbnb business.
Now, we said business, right? Not just running an Airbnb, but an actual business. So some of these costs will be tied to the actual property. Some of these costs will be tied to the entire business. But before we get into all those hidden costs, we wanted to share with you guys that we've officially launched our Airbnb coaching program. It's called Alpha Host Academy. And we're still in beta mode. We're still kind of fleshing out all the kinks with the coaching program, but we're super excited. When you join Alpha Host Academy, it is a lifetime membership for those who join during the beta launch.
Yeah.
Plus you'll get a mix of one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and on-demand pre-recorded content. And our goal is to help you escape the rat race and replace your job within 5 years of joining the program. So if you're interested in booking a call to learn more about the program, head over to therealestaterobinsons.com/book-a-call.
We've also got an event coming up. It's the STR Summit. And if you missed the first one that happened back in September in Newport Beach, you really missed out. So let me tell you about it. It's a 3-day event focused all on teaching you how to buy, manage, and scale your very own short-term rental portfolio. So we will literally walk you through all the steps you need to follow to get started. And we have so many great speakers lined up to bring you even more value. Like I said, the last event was such a hit. market. We have so much amazing feedback from the attendees. So we can't wait to replicate this. And this time it's gonna be in Orlando, Florida on January 20th through the 22nd. So if you're interested, which if you're watching this video, it tells me you are. So head over to strsummit.com and grab your early bird tickets before prices go up soon.
All right, so let's get into those hidden costs. So the first costs are the fees and licenses that are needed to legally operate your Airbnb. Now, some people might think that, when you buy a property, you can just throw it on Airbnb simply because you own that property. And while that might be true in some places, it is definitely not true in all places.
Yeah. Most cities and counties have some sort of process for obtaining a short-term rental permit. And if you don't follow that process, then your Airbnb becomes technically illegal. And if your Airbnb is illegal, then you can rack up crazy amount of fees and get your property shut down. So this is a cost that you do not want to try and skip out on, trust me.
Yeah, we actually talked in one of our other videos about a host, several hosts that were operating in Las Vegas where Airbnbs were banned. And I think one guy racked up like $60,000+ in fees and liens from the county for operating his Airbnb illegally. So it can really add up if you do this the wrong way. Now, in some places, all you need is a business license, which is relatively inexpensive. In other places, you have to apply for an actual permit. And like I said, in some places, it's super cheap. Other places, it's super expensive.
In one market we were looking at, it was like literally $15 to get a business license. In California though, we pay over $1,000 per property for our Airbnb permits in some cities. So when you're projecting your startup costs for a property, it's important for you to understand what the cost for the permit is and be sure to include that.
Now, to figure out this cost, you can do two things, all right? First, you can go and search the city's website. A lot of times they have these fees just like listed on their website, and it's either like on the website or it's some sort of like downloadable PDF. Now, if you can't find it there, the second thing you can do is just like reach out to the city directly, right? Shoot them an email, give them a call, or if you're close enough, just go talk to them in person, which is my favorite thing to do because I feel like you get the best information face to face.
Any of those options work. The only thing you do not really want to do is take someone else's word for it. That person could be misinformed, or maybe they bought their permit 6 months ago and last week the city decided to increase their prices or change their rules altogether. So the point is, you'll want to make sure you get this info straight from the source.
So the second hidden costs are your insurance costs. Now, insurance costs for Airbnbs are almost always going to be higher than what you would pay for a traditional primary residence, or honestly even a traditional like long-term rental. And it makes sense because Airbnbs are naturally more risky than primary residences or long-term rentals as well.
And some Airbnb investors double down on their insurance and get insurance that's specific to Airbnbs. Obviously, that's an additional cost on top of your traditional home insurance. But if liability is a big concern for you, you can help reduce that fear by purchasing this additional coverage. And essentially, this insurance covers the gap between your regular home insurance and the extra kinds of risks that come along with Airbnbs.
So these costs will vary pretty wildly from city to city and from property to property, but the best way to go about figuring out what these costs are is, again, just reaching out to an insurance agent and asking for a quote. Most agents should be able to get you a ballpark quote within at least a few days. So the third hidden cost is additional taxes. There are really two key taxes that come to mind for us, but there are probably others out there depending on what city you're in. Now, the first tax is what's known as a transient occupancy tax, or TOT. Now, this type of tax might have a different name depending on your city, but the basic idea is that cities typically charge taxes on any rents that property owners collect if the stay is less than 30 days. So historically, this TOT was applied for hotels or motels, things like that. But as Airbnbs have gained more popularity, they become subject to TOT as well.
Now, luckily, Airbnb actually allows you to pass this tax on to the guest. And Airbnb actually collects all of the TOT payments and then pays this tax to the city on your behalf.
Which is freaking cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, but some counties might charge additional taxes that you become responsible for as a host. So when you're applying for your permit, it's important to understand what those other taxes might be because you're responsible for them. That way you can set aside money as your deposits come in from Airbnb every single month.
So our recommendation here is to get a really good understanding of what the TOT is. Reach out to the city and ask what their process is for TOT, and ask them if you as the owner are responsible for any taxes above and beyond what Airbnb is already paying on your behalf. Very confusing, this tax stuff, like Tony handles, I'm very confused.
Now, the second type of tax bill that you might get is what's known as a supplemental tax bill. I don't know if the supplemental tax bill happens in every state, but it's definitely happened to a lot of our properties.
Yeah, girl.
We'll be getting this in the mail.
Yeah.
Regularly.
Even our residents,
Yeah.
our new homes, but the supplemental tax bill is basically a second type of property tax that you're obligated to pay as the owner. So we're already, talked about the basic property taxes, but the supplemental tax bill is an additional tax that's owed whenever you buy a new property from someone else. So basically the county says that the ownership of this property has switched hands, and because of that, there are additional taxes that are due. Now, we've only seen a supplemental tax bill due in the first year of ownership, but it's like a 4-figure tax bill that we typically have to pay if we own that property for the entire year. So it is something you'll want to try and figure out beforehand. Now, again, to try and ballpark this number, I'd reach out to the city or the county and ask them if they can give you the formula they use for calculating this number. Then you can start setting aside a little bit of money each month to try and do this. Another approach would be to reach out to your lender, to your mortgage, whoever holds your debt for your property, and see if they were able to compound that supplemental tax bill along with your property taxes. So remember, your payment to your bank typically includes your property taxes, so just ask them if they would also be able to include your supplemental taxes.
Yeah, that would be the best.
That would be the best,
Yeah.
but literally every bank we've asked to do that has said no. So none of them want to do it for us.
Well,
People, the city, counties, and state. Now I understand why people are pissed about taxes. But we're gonna pay ours because I'm afraid. I don't want to go to jail. But before we keep moving, we'd really appreciate it if you guys could give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications. Every new subscriber really does mean a lot to us, and we have a goal to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year.
Doesn't seem like it's gonna happen unless this video goes viral, so help us out, please.
Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell your auntie.
We've also got a totally free download for all of our subscribers. So if you head over to therealestaterobinsons.com, we've put together a free tool that helps you analyze properties that you're considering purchasing as a short-term rental.
And if you're not yet an Airbnb host, sign up using our link in the description. You'll get a cash bonus for signing up, and we'll get a small cash bonus for referring you as well.
So the fourth hidden costs are your legal and professional costs. So this includes things like your attorney, your accountant, and any other costs associated with your actual LLC with your business. Now, for example, we pay several $1,000s a year for tax planning and for tax preparation. We spend another $80 to $100 per month for each LLC for QuickBooks. And since we live in California, we have to pay another $800 to the state for each LLC we own. Then we also have ongoing costs for bookkeeping, which can get pretty crazy as you start to expand your business. Now, those are the kind of costs that a lot of people don't think of when they start investing in Airbnbs because they're just thinking about the property. But again, you're building, and what your goal is to build an actual business. So these are things you should 100% be planning for. Now, we made the mistake early on of not planning for a good CPA or a good bookkeeper. And it came back to bite us in the butt when that first tax season came around. And outside of like just the headache of not having your books in order, here's the other thing about investing in real estate. How much money you make is only one part of the equation. The second part, and honestly, maybe even more the important part, is how much money you keep. And getting the right tax advisor on your side can reduce your tax bill by 6 figures easily. The fifth hidden costs are HOAs. Now, we actually own one cabin that's located within an HOA, and every quarter we have to write a check for like $400. Now, HOA stands for Homeowners Association, right? That's where like all the Karens congregate typically.
really bad. That's me.
But anyway, that $400, it's like a little over $100 per month on top of all the other expenses we have for this property. So whenever you're looking at a property, it's always good to double check if there are any HOA fees. So you can ask your realtor to help you out, right? Hopefully they should know. Or maybe there are other investors who own in that same HOA. And once you find out those costs, be sure to include it in your analysis.
Now, as a quick side note, I think you do have to be extra careful investing in a property that's located inside of an HOA. The property that we own in an HOA is exclusively filled with short-term rentals. Like literally the entire development was built for the specific purpose of being a collection of short-term rentals. I think that type of HOA is safe to invest in, but I think it's safe to say that we would be very hesitant to invest in an HOA that's filled with primary residences. Because all it takes is one or two Karens who are upset with your property because of a guest or whatever to cause a big fuss and try and change the HOA bylaws to ban STRs altogether there. So that makes me nervous. So just something to keep in mind.
All right, so the sixth hidden cost is platform fees. So that's like Airbnb and Vrbo. They're not just listing your property out of the goodness of their heart. They make the majority of their money by charging fees to the guests for booking your property through their platform, and then charging fees to the owner for listing their property on the platform. So for example, right now, Airbnb charges guests like, I think 12% on top of the booking amount. And then they charge the host a 3% fee that gets deducted from the booking amount. So if you're analyzing deals, you as the host, you as the owner should always include that 3% fee to make sure you're getting accurate numbers on what your bottom net profit will be. Otherwise, you're going to overestimate how much money you'll actually make on a property.
The seventh hidden cost is your hourly labor. When we talk about hourly labor, we're not necessarily talking about your repairs and maintenance. We already included that when we talked about obvious costs, right? Your hourly labor is for those one-off things that don't happen all that often really, and that aren't necessarily tied to the day-to-day operations of the property. So it might make more sense if we give you some examples. So say for example, your guest leaves behind a personal item like a pair of headphones or whatever, and now they're asking you to ship them back. If you agreed to do that, you're going to have to pay someone to get their headphones from the property, take them to the post office and ship them, pay for the shipping and all of that. So that's one example, and we have that happen very often. Another example would be if you have a big package getting delivered, maybe ordered new appliances, but someone has to be present to receive that package. And you don't live in the same city or state. So now you need to pay someone to hang around the property to make sure they sign for that property. The same thing happens for utilities too. So some utility companies need an adult present when they go turn on the service. And again, if you're not local, you will have to pay someone to do this for you. Things like this happen all the time, especially when you're setting up the property. And honestly, either your handyman or your cleaner will probably be willing to step in when you need them. That is the case for us, and we are very appreciative. But it is very important for you to talk with them first and A, make sure that they are willing to do it in the first place, and B, you two should be very clear on how you're going to pay them. Will you pay them a flat rate based on the type of task, or will you set some kind of hourly rate for them?
Either way, have that conversation when you're first hiring them or when you guys first start talking about it. So that way, when you need them, you've already got the whole money piece figured out.
Yeah.
So hidden cost number 8, the last and final one, is your software costs. Now, we encourage everyone in our community to buy the software that's going to make your job as a host easier. You need your banking software, and we recommend Relay Financial, right? Use the link in our bio to set up your account with them. You need property management software. You need a dynamic pricing tool. You need a digital guidebook. Those are just some of the basics. But as you start to scale, it's something we've really started to see as our business has gotten bigger, is that other types of software become more important too. Think about maybe project management software. If you have multiple people on your team all kind of working on different parts of the business, some kind of software to keep everyone on track becomes super important. Your bookkeeping software. When we first started off, we were using Stessa, which was free. Now we have QuickBooks, which is what we use, which is much more expensive. Maybe you need software to help with your listings rankings and SEO. Or maybe you need software to kind of streamline your market selection process, or your repairs and maintenance tasks. Like the list goes on and on. But these software costs, they definitely can start to add up as you grow your business. We just spent almost like $700 for an annual subscription to one piece of software to cover all of our properties. And for an entire year, we're easily spending thousands of dollars on software. But again, we're almost at 30 properties, so the cost do increase as you scale. So the cost per property kind of goes down, but these are things you should think about as you're starting your business. All right, guys, well, hey, we hope you all found this video helpful. Be sure to share it with someone who might like it also, right? We're trying to get to 50K. We're not there yet, so more eyes helps us. And before we go, please do connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Tony J. Robinson. My lovely wife is at Sarah Rad. And if you're on TikTok, you can follow us at The Real Estate Robinsons. So if you have any follow-up questions, drop a comment below. We'll do our best to answer. But that's it for today, guys. I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And we are
The Real Estate Robinsons.